every one of us have seeds of greatness in us that is meant to be unlocked by putting ourselves in fertile ground. And when you begin to grow, who you naturally are will come out.
What do you think about young people not knowing what to do with their life?
I think that's pretty normal. Enjoy life. Figuring out who you are and what you want to do is the journey of life. And I think putting pressure on kids to feel like they should already know what they want to do is both unfair and unrealistic and leads to a lot of really dumb decisions and puts a lot more stress on them than needs to be. That's for the realm of adults. And to me, adulthood really is more like your 40s, 50s, 60s, not your 20s and 30s. And a lot of cultures throughout the ages have seen it that way too. Let young people figure out who they are and teach them three things: awareness, honesty, and responsibility. Teach them how to become aware of themselves and others. Teach them how to be honest with themselves and others. And then teach them how to take responsibility for themselves. Then who they are and what they're about will naturally begin to come out over time. I think it's a very unfair expectation to put on yourself or to have somebody put on you that you should already know what you're supposed to do in your life, especially in your 20s. Get out of here. Take your time. Your 20s are really the time to make big bets. Go out and experience the world. Travel. Get to know people. Go visit other countries. Open up your experiences. Don't shut yourself off. And I promise you, whatever is in you will come out. If you plant a peach seed, or a peach pit as it actually is, in the ground, you're only going to get a peach tree. That is the only thing it can possibly produce. And every one of us have seeds of greatness in us that is meant to be unlocked by putting ourselves in fertile ground. And when you begin to grow, who you naturally are will come out. So be at peace with the process and don't try to figure out everything at once. You're going to be okay. By the way, I get asked a lot of times, what is the thing I would have gone back and told myself when I was a kid? It's that. Because I felt I was in such a rush. I came into this world in such a rush because I know why I'm here. And it was such a rush to get it done that I just cheated myself out of so much of my childhood because I always wanted to be somewhere I wasn't yet. And no matter where I was, it's like, it's always the next thing. It's always the next thing. And in fact, when you grow and develop into the person you're meant to be, you have no choice but to become exactly what you always have been.
So do you think it's ever too late to start a career?
No, it's never too late.
Never too late?
But no. And there's just so many examples of that. You grow and change and you pivot. This idea of career is a fairly new idea. You're human, right? Career is a fairly new idea and more of a modern society thing. We're human. We may have different interests in different times in our life. And why would it ever be too late? If you're breathing, you're functional, move. Functional even, it takes on different meanings depending on your situation. But if you're alive, it's never too late.
I like that. What do you think about introverts versus extroverts?
A lot of people, this surprises when they get to know me, but I consistently score on the Myers-Briggs as an introvert, but I'm I guess technically an ambivert, which is I can be extroverted, but I am introverted. Like I'm an extroverted introvert, I guess, as a way of putting that. I kind of fall in the line. But the easiest way to describe an introvert is an introvert tends to get energy by being by themselves. Extroverts tend to get energy by being around others. And so for me, being around other people is almost never an energy giving I rarely ever receive energy from that. I'm more likely to be energy giving, which is why I tend to want to be by myself. Extroverts sometimes get the leg up when it comes to social settings, whether it be speaking or acting or sales. They generally get the light and everybody assumes they would naturally be better. And in some cases they are, but introverts can be just as good or better. And I don't really subscribe to the idea that I'm limited by my personality. Right? Sometimes you'll hear people say that, well, that's just not my personality. Okay, that's fine, but it's still a choice, right? I'm naturally very shy. If I'm in a room full of people I don't know, I tend to want to listen, and I'm quiet, and it doesn't matter whether it's people I know or not. I tend to be quiet and want to listen. It somewhat depends on the context I'm in or the situation I'm in, but I don't allow the fact that I'm typically, I don't know if shy is the right word, but I'm certainly usually quiet and not somebody who's socially trying to go out of my way to connect with everyone. I don't allow that to stop me from connecting with people or communicating effectively or being influential in a situation. So a lot of times I think when we appeal to our personality, what we're really saying is this isn't an area that I want to grow or challenge my comfort. Not that it isn't something I can't do. And so all that to say, for those who say I'm an introverted bookworm and I don't want to talk to people and I'm not very social, that is a choice. You can absolutely choose not to be that way. Now, if you're like, well, I don't want to be, well, that's totally cool too. It's fun. We all get to pick our own adventure, but don't allow your story about yourself to limit the things that you want. And that's what I'm getting at. If you feel like, well, I'm naturally an introvert, I wouldn't be good at sales, or I wouldn't be good at communicating, or I wouldn't be good on social media or as a content creator, that's simply not true. There are lots of very, very powerful influencers who are naturally introverted. It's just a skill you have to learn like any other.
So do you think that there's like no one's better than the other? Like they're all equal in that sense?
No, I don't. Qualitatively, I don't know that one's better than other. They both have strengths and weaknesses.
What would those be?
Introverts tend to be more self-reflecting, so they tend to be more aware, at least of themselves. They tend to think more, not always, but they tend to be deeper thinkers because they like to be quiet. They're willing to think through things. Extroverts tend to be the life of the party. They really like entertaining people. They like accolades. They like recognition. They're big on energy, right? They tend to get energy from other people. So they can be a lot of fun to be around and they can bring a lot of energy with them. And so that can be super entertaining. And so that could be, powerful. They tend to do well in situations where they're in the limelight because they can be very charismatic and very character-driven personality. They can bring a lot of joy to people's lives. I would say the downside is that they can also be very unaware and very focused on what they're getting more than what they're giving. And I'm making some generalizations here, and there's certainly exceptions both way. But the priorities in social interaction are exactly the opposite, right? Introverts tend to want to listen. They tend to want to be quiet, so they're more reflective. They're better listeners generally. Extroverts tend to want to talk. They're not so interested in listening, but they can be more entertaining. It can be a lot of fun to be around. They're both great, and they both have a wonderful place in the world. And would be, to me, it's like loosely the difference, like men and women are different, right? The feminine and the masculine are two different energies, and they're both beautiful energies. One is not better than the other, and it would be boring if we didn't have the other. As a man, it would be the man, and as a masculine man, to me, it would be a tragedy if we didn't have femininity. And this would not be a fun place for me to show up, not in this world. And so I think they're both beautiful energies, and it's the same with extroverts and introverts. I have friends that are extroverts, and they can be a ton of fun to hang out with, unless you're trying to be quiet and want to read and contemplate and drink tea and play chess. They may not be as fun, but if you want to get out and have fun, they're a great group to be with. And introverts are great for deep conversation and just sitting quietly together and not feeling like you need to do anything or say anything. So I think they both can be great.